Yo.
And welcome to Flyers Game Day. It is Jason Myrtetus, Brian Smith. We're getting ready for Flyers game number 4 on the season. 3 up, 3 wins. Game 4 tonight against the Florida Panthers, who are a little bit depleted. First back-to-back for the Flyers as well. The red-hot Carter Hart will not be playing tonight after what we thought was 39 shots on goal last night, Brian. It turned out to be 38 because they took one away overnight. What is up with that?
I don't know. This is a couple of times this sort of thing's happened already this season. So it's I've never seen a shot taken off the board after a game. I've seen some added, but
convene a council or something to
I don't
determine
know.
what wasn't a shot.
I don't know. I don't know how you go back and find a shot that wasn't a shot, but they managed to do that. I was trying to look up. You know, we were talking yesterday about how he was 15-1-2 with 37 or more, and I'm trying to look it up just to confirm it. And it's not showing up. I can't figure out why it's not showing up. And then I look, and and they took a shot away. How about that? So, but hey, still a great game for him. He's still 15-2-2 when making 36 saves or more. You can, of course, make numbers say anything you want them to if you try hard enough. So it's still a good indicator of what he's capable of when he gets a lot of work.
No doubt. A high-volume goaltender. They'll look to maybe not expose Felix Sandstrom to quite that kind of volume tonight. Now, we know – what's that?
Please do not.
Yeah. I mean, we know that Sandstrom, got a couple games early in the preseason, Brian. Then that one game, I forget which game it was. I think it's his third appearance. He saw 2 shots, and he came out, and he was dealing with that lower body injury, which we came to find out. We actually got some clarity on it. It was a groin, which is never good for a goaltender. And then we started the season with Sam Ersson as the backup while he was on the injured list. But he's activated. He's been practicing with the team. We saw him a little bit last year, Felix Sandstrom. We're going to look at him tonight against a Florida team, even though they're depleted a little bit. Still a good hockey team.
Yeah, still a lot of dangerous weapons, still some tough things to deal with. The Flyers' backup goaltending situation coming into the season or the preseason rather, was a little bit of a question mark. The Flyers needed to be convinced, I think, that those 2 guys were going to be good options, that they could handle the load of being an NHL backup, because obviously Ersson doesn't have any NHL experience, and Sandstrom's is I think 1 or 2 games. So they wanted to make sure, and both of them had outstanding camps, and in fact it was really for a little while, it was a cool question of, okay, which one was going to stay? Obviously, I think if you had to pick, Ersson's the one that could use the more time in the American Hockey League. So, Sandstrom was briefly unavailable. Ersson was there to start the season, but once Sandy was okay, they brought him up. And yeah, I mean, I have never watched him play a game where I've been, like, wow, what's he doing? He's played a lot at the AHL level. I have not seen him play at the AHL level, but in NHL camps and in the limited NHL action he's had, he has looked to me to be very solid. So I was comfortable with him in a backup role, and we'll see what happens here as he starts that at the top of this season.
Yeah, I mean, he was drafted back in 2015 in the 3rd round, 170th overall. He has seen 57 total games in the American Hockey League, and he's had some pretty good success there. And, his development to the North American game after spending all those years playing in the Swedish Elite League, the top league over there, he came over 18-19, saw 1 game, played 25 in the 19-20 season, actually in the coast for Reading. And then the pandemic hits and really kind of throws his adjustment to the smaller ice off quite a bit. But he got some consistency last year, got those 5 games last year too. Comes out of those 5 games with a 3.23 goals against average. That's more of a team stat, but a 9-10 save percentage, and he looked pretty sharp in doing it. So we'll see Felix Sandstrom tonight, so that's good news.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the way that time frame went from the end of the 1920 season, the premature end in March of 2020, until the end of the 2021 season. So from March of 20 through, what would you say, May of 2021, he only appeared in 22 games total in that year and a half. And I take that back. He only appeared in 17 games in North America. 5 of those were in Sweden. So he only had 17 games on North American ice in a year and a half. And so that, to what you were saying, kind of halted his adjustment, if you will, to the NHL ice, because he came over at the start of the 1920 season. He did go to Reading because the Flyers were good at the higher levels, so that gave him the opportunity to start at Reading and start getting used to things. And again, he had to kind of stop, if you will. I'm sure back at home he was training on Olympic ice and things like that. So last year was a good opportunity for him to get to get that back going again. Had a 2.89 goals against average on the Phantoms team that had a really tough year, so that's a pretty respectable number for what they were going through. And so I'm excited to see what he can do this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a guy that got that taste last year, so took that into the offseason. Talking to him during the preseason, I had a long conversation with Sam Ersson, and we've talked about it, but I was really impressed with how calm he was in the net and how he didn't look overwhelmed. Felix is just as chill a guy as Ersson is. I don't know if that's a Swede thing. We know Henrik Lundqvist, the most famous Swedish goaltender, is pretty chill dude, and both of those guys very chill as well. Good trait to have for a goaltender. Now, let me ask you this. Did you wake up today going, is this real? Are the Flyers really 3-0? Did you have that same kind of feeling? Because I did.
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, you didn't expect it. And you knew coming in that, the Flyers were going to have to scrap for some wins, but the fact that they've been able to basically come from behind for all of them is, pretty remarkable given what they were last year. Now, again, going into this year, I think you're the same way. We know that this team is not what they were last year. That was an aberration. It was, the injuries are just a fact of what it was, and you can't blow up a team based on that. What the Flyers are right now is a team that is missing a few players due to injury, and they're showing that they have the depth to weather that storm. But that's 3 guys. Last year, at one point, they had 10. All 4 of their NHL centers. You're never going to get anywhere with that. So we knew going into this year that it wasn't going to be as bad as the very online would have you believe. But starting off 3-0, I'm not sure that we really expected that. That was that's and that's good because it takes some pressure off them. They don't have to. If you're coming out into this game tonight, for instance, second half of the back-to-back, and you're 1-2 or you're 0-2-1 or something like that, you're starting to stress a little bit, and so this lets them, I think, settle in, and they're not going 82-0, and there's no question about it. But a start like this just kind of takes the pressure off a little bit.
The funny thing is, you start out 0-2, and if you got some expectations, you're supposed to be a team that's going to take a step forward, like we saw that with New Jersey. They started out 0-2, and the Fire Lindy chants 2 games into a season were incredible. Now, it's a unique situation there because of Andrew Brunette was hired, who took over, obviously, last year when Joel Quenneville was relieved in Florida. And, Brunette leads that team to a President's Trophy, but they're not able to advance past the second round of the playoffs. They move on from Brunette. They hired Paul Maurice, really good coach, but really shocking that they moved on from Andrew Brunette, and he's now in New Jersey. And we see this, Bruce Boudreau, same situation out in Vancouver. There's a lot of calling for his head. And I was listening to Elliot Friedman and Jeff Marek on 32 Thoughts, and he said, there actually are some seats that are hot right now in the NHL. That's incredible.
And it doesn't help any of them that Barry Trotz is just kind of sitting out there twiddling his thumbs. There's
Hall of Famer.
Especially in Vancouver, they've had a very weird start to their season. They had some upheaval in their front office before the year even started, and now here they go, and they've blown 3 2-goal leads, I believe, in their first
almost
3 games.
A 3-goal against Edmonton.
Yeah. I mean, they've blown lead after lead after lead. I'm wondering if the folks that left in the preseason weren't the ones that were supposed to keep them from blowing multi-goal leads, because they apparently seem to have a problem with that.
JT Miller was on the ice the other day. He said, I've been on the ice for all 8 goals against, and he put it on himself. That's good on him for doing it.
Yeah. I mean, that is, and obviously in Vancouver, it's a little bit of a crazy market. All the Canadian markets kind of are. I don't know, unless you think you're going to get Barry Trotz, I would be loath to wish that Bruce Boudreau was gone. I mean, careful what you wish for, right? It's one of those things that you never know what's going to happen if you.
Bruce will get that thing straightened out.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are starting. And they are starting on a 5-game road trip, which is not the ideal situation. So they'll settle down, but it is kind of crazy to see how quickly folks can kind of be getting the pitchfork sharpened in this league here. We're not even what are we, 1 week in as of today or something like that? So
crazy.
Well, at least the Flyers don't have to worry about a coaching controversy right now.
Yeah, well, the reason why they get the pitchforks out because coaching changes work in this league. Yeah. It's been proven. So you try and do it earlier and earlier every year so you don't have as much ground to make up, like Bruce Boudreau had too much ground to make up when they let go of Travis Green last year in Vancouver. Let's take our first time out here on Flyers Game Day. When we come back, Brian, Flyers are giving up a lot of shots on goal. Carter Hart's got the 4th most saves in the NHL. We'll give you where they rank so far this season, and I'll kind of relate that back to Torts' year 1 in a couple of other destinations. It's Brian Smith, Jason Myrtetus, Flyers Game Day, Flyers and Panthers tonight. Back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Thanks, Mike. Oh, what's going on, people on the stream? Oh, no worries. All good. Yeah. Yeah. Let me make sure. I'm gonna text it to you, Mike, because I just got yours from Brian. I'm not gonna say it over the stream what my phone number is. Let me text you that one. I thought I had your contact as well. That would have been a bad idea if I just all of a sudden gave out my phone number over the stream. Brian, can you hear me? Smitty can't hear me. Tell him so he can listen so he can hear me. No, on the stream. I just sent you a text that says test. So that's my number. What is up, everybody? Usually I would put up the little graphic here on the stream. Put this up. Not tonight. I'm in a good mood. Flyers start out 3-0. We won Saturday 3-0. We lost Sunday, I think 6-0. Yep. What they giveth, they taketh away. All right.
Alrighty.
Sean Spellman checking in on the stream said, "What up, Myrtetus? We got a Flyers winning streak, yo. The defense looks sound to start." Oh, we're going to address this question from Sean here when we come back. Let me just do this real quick. Turn my cam off. It is Flyers Game Day. It's Brian Smith, Jason Myrtetus. We're getting you ready for Flyers Panther. A lot of changes in Florida this year, Brian.
Yeah, they really, for a team that did as well as they did last year, certainly were not very happy with it. They had a first round exit. It's just a matter of trying to figure out what's going to push you over the hump. And I don't think that the folks in charge down there are necessarily all that patient. So they're going to go in there and see if they can't tweak some things and figure out where you go. It really takes a little bit of bravery, I think, to have a team like that did so well and kind of almost chop off its head and replace it with another, if you will.
They bring in Matthew Tkachuk, which is obviously the big addition.
Yeah,
they had to make room, and in that trade, they trade Jonathan Huberdeau, who was going into the last year his deal, and Mackenzie Weegar. But what happens with Calgary is they signed both of those players to extensions. Mm-hmm. So good hockey trade all around. Matthew Tkachuk is, both brothers now, Brady and Matthew, in the same division.
Yeah.
Both on the East Coast. Look out.
And again, you look at the way the whole landscape shook out. The Panthers brought in Claude Giroux to try to be the piece that put him over the top, and he wasn't. So he leaves, goes to Ottawa, and then the switch that you just talked about happened, and then Calgary can't keep Calgary can't keep their big pieces. Johnny Gaudreau, of course, goes to Columbus, but then Calgary ends up signing both of those guys. So yeah, there was a pretty big wheel that spun there in the offseason that was all those teams were kind of related to each other.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a new coach down there in Florida. Good place to work, no tax, good weather, the whole thing. Yeah. Good team, good players. I mean, Barkov, you got Ekblad, who is now out on LTIR. But Sean Spellman on our stream put this question to us. He says, why do coaching changes work in the NHL? Does it mean the players are tuned out, or someone comes in and doesn't let them get away with it their way anymore? It always works. It's crazy. My theory on this, Bri, is this. As a youth playing the game of hockey, if you're playing at a high level, you tend to get a new coach every 2 years. You have your 2 years at Squirt. You have your 2 years at Pee Wee. You got your 2 years at Bantam. Then you got your 2 years at U16 or Midget, 2 years at Junior. You're getting a new voice every other year, and it resonates a new voice.
Certainly,
that's my theory.
Yeah, there certainly could be validity to that. Kind of the thing I saw in the last couple of years here that got me thinking was that it seems to me in this day and age that a coach comes into an organization and brings their own way of doing things, their own philosophy, whether it's systems or how you use certain players or whatnot. And I think one of the things that the Flyers struggled with Alain Vigneault is that when the system didn't fit the players necessarily, they stuck with the system. And I remember asking somebody, it's like, well, why do coaches not change some of the systems if the personnel don't fit? And the response I got was it's ego. They think their way is the way to do things. So sometimes
it's not system, it's religion to them.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes you get somebody that comes in and starts using players in a different way. I think you saw that last year with Mike Yeo and a couple of different Flyers getting used in different ways after that coaching change in December. And it kind of sparked some guys, and then the injuries hit in January, and they were never the same after that. But there certainly seems to be a little bit of that, and then with shelf, you look at most guys, and they do what you talked about, right? Like Dave Haxtell, and left here as the second longest tenured coach in Flyers history, I think. I know he was the only guy other than Fred Shero to coach parts of 5 seasons. I don't know if he caught Peter Laviolette in games or not, but Fred Shero is the longest tenured coach in Flyers history at about 7 years. That's the way things go around most of the NHL. But then I look at how long Barry Trotz lasted in Nashville, and I look at that years. Example, and it's like, well, why don't more coaches last that? It wasn't like Nashville blew the doors off the National Hockey League during that time, but he was effective there. And so I'm just kind of
weird because he goes to Washington, wins a cup, and he's out, and then he goes to New York.
Well,
and this is the playoffs after 2 back-to-back conference finals, and he's out. It's so bizarre.
Yeah. And you recall I think the only reason he left Washington is because they weren't going to pay him.
Yeah, they lowballed him.
Yeah, they lowballed him. I don't think he would have left otherwise under normal circumstances. And then when he went to New York, that was the pandemic. So to me, that's maybe a little bit of an aberration on his career record. So we've seen how Lou Lamoriello fires coaches over his career. I mean, you can be in first place. What was it, 2000? They were in first place in April, and he fired John Constantine, was it, or something like that?
Yeah. He'll do that. He brought Jack Lemaire, I believe, right?
There's somewhere in there. Constantine was in there somewhere. So I don't know why, other than in today's cap world, you can't just get rid of players anymore like you could. You can't bury players in the minors. The coach is not regulated by the salary cap, so you can make that change. And it's the old adage:
break up with a player. You can break up with the coach, but you can't break up with a player. It's too hard.
The old adage: you can't get rid of all the players, but you can't get rid of the coach, so you do that. So that might be the main one of the things driving it too. But it does seem to be very interesting that what a change like that and you look at Florida last year. I mean, Florida, they changed Quenneville because of all the off-ice stuff in Chicago. He was doing great, and at the time, everybody thought, well, this is going to be the end of the Panthers season, and then Andrew Brunette came in and did a fine job. So
let him to a President's Trophy.
Yeah.
Which is all to say this: a guy like Torts who burned so hot, 7-year stint, 6-year stint, 5.5-year stint, and a 1-year stint in Vancouver where it melted down and he was out of there right away. But he's kind of the exception, not the rule right now. All right, I promised I would tell you about the amount of shots on goal they're giving up. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll do that. Also, Flyers made a claim on the waiver wire today. A guy that played for Torts, ironically enough, for 3 years in Columbus and came back to the NHL after a couple of years in the KHL. We'll tell you about Lucas Sedlak when we return as we get you ready for Flyers, Panthers. Tim Saunders and Steve Coates have the countdown to face-off coming up. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. All right. Oh, la, 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 la. Where's my other earbud? C-Mac says, how is Wade Allison playing? You never hear anything about him. I think he's been playing pretty well.
Yeah.
He's kind of been all over a little bit, right?
Did he score in the opener?
Wade did, yeah. Remember he had that goal right on the side of the net. I think it was the first goal of the season for the Flyers.
Yeah. So he had that goal in the opener. He had a great camp, fantastic camp. He may not have been as prominent in these last two games. I haven't looked at his ice time, to be honest. I know that Tortorella said yesterday that he felt like some of the young kids were overwhelmed a little bit in that Tampa game, so that could have been it a little bit too. So,
yep, he's a guy that is going to work his way to the power play. PP2 to start, and if he has some success, he'll move his way to PP1. He's got a good shot. Let me look at his.
Oh yeah, I mean that is, and it's not only do he and Tippett look alike, but they seem to shoot alike too. They both like that half ball shot. So
5 seconds.
Where they might be the same person. I don't know.
Not anymore with the haircut.
No, that's true.
All right, here we go. All right, we are back at his Flyers game day. Flyers and Panthers coming up. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates on a great road trip. Tampa last night. Down to Sunrise, South Florida tonight, and then they're going to head to Nashville.
The best is yet to come for that crew.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I'm going to be ordering Coatesy a nice fried egg omelet coming up on Friday to his hotel with a nice sides, maybe a little French toast as well. Make sure he's taken care of down there. Got to make sure Coatsy's taken care of, right?
Yeah. We want to get him back on Sunday.
In one piece.
Yeah.
So, Brian, so far this season, Carter Hart's made the 4th most saves in the NHL. Flyers have given up the 7th highest shots per game. Anaheim's given up 42.5. They've given up the most per game. They've played 4 games. Now, again, this is a really small sample size, but still. Flyers have given up 35 even shots per game. They're actually tied with Winnipeg and just ahead of Detroit. And, they've gotten really good goaltending. I think that they haven't given up a ton of high-quality chances, but even when they have, the goaltender in Carter Hart, who's played all 3 of these games, has been very good. Now, the thing is here, in John Tortorella's first season in New York, well, go all the way back, Tampa, New York, and also in Columbus, his teams gave up the most amount of shots per game for the season in year 1 than any other year. First year with the Rangers, back in 08-09, 33.5. Then they dropped to 29.9, 29.4, 27.8. You get my drift. Yeah. Columbus, they gave up 31.1 in year 1, 15-16, then to 30.4, then to 30.3, 29.5. This is his structure, and him getting the players to understand that structure as he moves forward and he gets
Right.
the pieces that he needs to deploy to play his system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, I have no evidence to back this up, but I feel like what has happened here so far is the players buying in more quickly here than perhaps in past stops. And I guess maybe that's reflected by the fact that he's never started 3-0 with any of his franchises. I just feel like the Flyers seem to, for whatever reason, be more quick to jump into the way Tortorella wants them to play. And there might be a couple things going on there. I really like the way he approaches things now. He has mellowed. We were talking earlier about his past tenures. He didn't flame out in Columbus. They just both quietly said, "Okay, it's time for a change."
Yeah, he thought they needed a new voice,
right? And so it wasn't like what happened to Vancouver or anything like that. So he obviously is coming in here and he's running harder camps than these guys have ever been in, but he's almost doing it like caringly. If you watch the Standard, you saw some of the conversations that took place behind the scenes before camp, and I think he really set a good tone before he annihilated him for the first 2 days of camp. And then at the same time, we've heard so much more to you than me. You've been talking to the guys for Flyers Daily for the past year. I feel like this roster wanted this. They wanted somebody to come in and kind of tighten up the ship a little bit. It had become a little bit too loosey-goosey, I think, just in terms of, I don't know if country club atmosphere is the term, but
that's a term that you just used and I've used, Bri.
Yeah.
Cam Atkinson used that too. They played it on the ESPN Open in the first game.
Oh, okay. Well, so maybe I can go ahead and use
not just us. And Cam knows he was in there. He lived it last year.
So, if you have a group that wanted this structure, well, then they're going to buy in more quickly than one that might be resisting it. So I think you see all those things at work there, and I think that's part of what the success has been to this point.
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't want it, they sure asked for it in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because they basically did ask for it with the way things went. We talked about when Keith Yandel was on the Spit and Chicklets podcast and said that last year was the most fun he's ever had in the NHL. Yeah, it was a bad year from a wins-loss standpoint. It was hideous. And he had a blast. That's a problem to me. That's when I heard that, I hit, go back 30 seconds. Did I hear that right? I shouldn't have heard that. You know what I mean?
And we thought that was going to happen going in. You remember how tight the group felt at this point last year? Everybody was behind each other and having fun and all that. And then the wheels kind of fell off. And, I don't know, obviously I wasn't in there. I don't know exactly how they reacted to that, but maybe there was something about when everybody got hurt and they just kind of thought to themselves, because it wasn't like they constructed that record with everybody healthy. So
no.
At some point,
gallows humor.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. I really don't know, but I'm sure that he enjoyed playing with Kevin Hayes and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise to hear that said.
Yeah, no doubt. Flyers did make a waiver claim today.
Yeah.
Lucas Sedlak played for Torts in the 16-17 season, 17-18 and 18-19 in Columbus. Played 62 games, 53-47. Had 7 goals 1 year, 13 points, 8 points the next year, and 6 the year after that. Then he found his way over to the KHL. Signed a contract this year to come over and play for Colorado. Played in 3 games for him, as a matter of fact. Was a +1, no points. They put him on waivers. Flyers claimed him, and they picked him up today. So Lucas Sedlak is a center, left-handed, 29 years of age, and he is from the Czech Republic, 6 foot, 205 pounds. Scott Hartnell played with him, along with Sam Gagne out in Columbus on a line. Said he's really good defensively. So Flyers grab Lucas Sedlak. So we'll see when we see him in a Flyers uniform. But we do have Flyers-Panthers. No Aaron Ekblad. I still can't believe that Aaron Ekblad is only 26 years of age. He's been in the league, what seems like forever. But stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, they've got the countdown to face-off and then all the first period action between the Flyers and the Panthers. Can the Flyers go to 4-0. Stay tuned and find out. We're back at intermission with Brian Smith, Jason Myrtetus on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. All right, everybody on the stream. We'll talk to you post-game. Now that Smitty's got a working computer.
Yeah.
And a blurred background.
Yeah, welcome to my living room.
Yeah, I always see a blurred background and go, what's he hiding there?
It's I honestly was going to turn it off, but the thing started spinning again, and I didn't want it to freeze up and we get it again. But it's just two pictures back there of my kids when they were about 10 years younger than they are now. But
there you go. All right, everybody on the stream. We'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the hockey.